welcome to my series about all Chopin's music. You're probably thinking now, if you don't know this piece we are going to talk about, you are thinking, what did he play? Did he play two different pieces? Completely different music. But why? Probably many of you already know this piece, and I know that probably the majority of you know this piece, but I intend these videos to also serve for music lovers and everybody who doesn't know all Chopin's music, who wants to know pieces that he have never heard before. Therefore, I still want to start like this. That's why I decided I will do it just to surprise you, especially you who doesn't know the piece at all. Yes, it was one and the same piece of music. I know, it seems impossible, it seems incredible, but it still is the same piece of music, and I would like to start the analysis from this problem. Why, in one piece, we have such a difference of moods? What I played? First, the happy part. I played for you the theme, the main theme of the Rondo. Because today we talk about the great masterpiece, definitely, which is Rondo in E flat major, opus 16. When it comes to the Rondo and the construction of the Rondo and the Rondo as a genre, I've already talked about it in my video about Rondo opus 1. Then I explained with all the details how the Rondo should be constructed, that this is the classical form and we have A, B, A, C, A, or something like that. If you didn't watch this video, do so and then come back, because I'm not going to repeat myself, so I strongly recommend you to do it. But of course the construction is simple. So what I played for you was the theme of the Rondo, the first theme. Very happy, very bright, full of jokes. We are smiling and laughing when we hear this music. Immediately after that, I played for you the introduction, because this Rondo starts with the introduction and sometimes even is called Introduction and Rondo in E flat major, opus 16. A completely different world. And that's, I want to emphasize this difference of characters, because I think it's very important, and I was thinking about it a lot, because it's not just when you are a pianist, and when you get a new piece to learn, of course you learn the music, but the music is only the surface. There is, behind this music, there is a man who wrote this music. A real man with his heart, his soul, his life, his brain, everything. And we pianists, when we interpret the piece, of course we use our own feelings and intuition, but it's not enough. At least in my opinion, it's not enough to bring back to life the spirit of the composer, which music we want to play and show to the audience. That's why I feel really a great responsibility every time I study a new piece by any composer, that the responsibility of really getting inside his brain and inside his soul in every way possible. I mean, of course, need to read the biography very deeply. Letters of other people about this man, and even the context, historical context and everything. But this is not enough. What is also very important is, while reading letters or biography, to think, to use the empathy, as much as I can, I try with this piece also, and especially to feel like Chopin felt, to understand his motivation to write such a piece, and then try to answer this question, fundamental question, why this piece starts like this, and then we have completely different character. And I think it's very important to understand the piece. Okay, so now we will try to answer this question, and we do so reading the text about this piece that we can find on the website of the National Chopin Institute in Warsaw. This is the text about this rondo, written by my great authority, Professor Mieczysław Tomaszewski, great Polish musicologist, and especially specialized with Chopin. He wrote many books. Some of them are very, very thick, great detailed book. But these books are even translated in English. So if you are interested, just drop me a comment, and I can send you the titles. But these are for musicians, as definitely. These books are not easy to read. Just for amateurs, I mean, music lovers or something like that, I would not recommend. He writes as follows. The Rondo in E flat major, opus 16, was possibly composed during a beautiful summer spent at Coda in France, and it was published in the autumn of 1833 with an unusually long dedication. Dédié à son élève, Mademoiselle Caroline Hartmann, par Frédéric Chopin. So, dedicated to his pupil, Miss Caroline Hartmann, by Frédéric Chopin. Chopin was 23 years old, rather young, but not as young as in Rondo Opus 1 when he was only 15, or Opus 5 when he was 17. This work, writes Professor Tomaszewski, is pure virtuosic display. And now we come to the point. The Rondo in E flat major, like the variations on the theme from the opera Ludovic, these variations we already know if you watched my video from a few weeks ago about variations opus 12. Together with this, he writes, this is like a testimony to a time that might be called a period of adaptation. This is very important. This period of Chopin's life was, and I love this name, the period of adaptation. Why adaptation? The young pianist from Warsaw. So, well, we have to be sincere now. Warsaw was not the capital of the world that time. It still is not, but that time absolutely not. The true capital, cultural capital of the Europe and the world was Paris, of course. Maybe Vienna, maybe Dresden, but Paris was absolutely the top. So young pianist from Warsaw is trying to find his place in Paris. It was not easy, trust me. A city that has bewildered and partly also enslaved him. This is true. And now we have a very, very important words written by Chopin himself, taken from his letters. Just listen. For a while, writes Chopin to his teacher, his mentor, Józef Elsner, for a while I need to put aside loftier artistic vistas. I am forced, writes Chopin, I am forced to think about forging a path for myself as a pianist. This is very strange. I mean, if you don't know very well Chopin's life, Chopin's biography, maybe you are surprised. How can he write that he is forced to become a pianist? Because in Polish language it sounds like I don't want to, but I have to. Indeed, it was true. Chopin didn't want to be a concert pianist. He didn't enjoy playing concerts. He didn't enjoy writing cheap, light, virtuoso music like wrote Liszt, Thalberg, Hertz, and Kalkbrenner, and all the other pianists and virtuosos of that time. Chopin was completely different. His dream was to write music. That's what made him happy. He felt the music himself from a very young age. And this is what he wanted to do. But now imagine, came to Paris, alone. He had a few letters of recommendations, but they didn't really work. And he didn't have money. He didn't have work. And it was not easy, even if he wrote some piece that he wanted to write from his inside, from his soul. Probably nobody would like to listen to it, because that time when he was 23, he really didn't feel well. I mean, it was just after the collapse of Polish uprising, November uprising. 2 years after that, 2-3 years. Chopin was lonely. He was alone in the big city, struggling and missing his family. And I mean, we can understand it. I don't have to explain. So he was not at all in the mood of writing such pieces like, for example, this Rondo. You will hear later. In the Rondo, definitely Chopin is not sincere. He writes the piece for the salon. And here we read, as a pianist composing music that was in vogue, like that being composed by all those around him, I already told about it, Kalkbrenner, Hertz, Moscheles and Thalberg. Music intended for the Parisian salons. This sparkling rondo, I love this word. This rondo is sparkling, that's true. It's sparkling rondo, which dazzles with its pianistic virtuosity, was composed in that Parisian bon goût, which means in the style, in the style, yes. In fashion, I think this is a better word. In fashion, or if you are French, you can help me. What means bon goût? I think that's how you pronounce it. So it's a difficult language. And I think it's extremely important for us to use our empathy and understand Chopin. He knew that he has to, as he said, put aside loftier artistic vistas, which means he couldn't write music that he wanted to write, that he felt, music from his inside. So instead he had to write pieces that please French salons, Parisian salons, and to make career, I mean to get himself known, to open the door to aristocratic salons, because for him it was really to be or not to be. He got students there, he started to make money, and then he could finally write the music that he wanted. He was materialistic man, definitely, and he had problems with money. He spent a lot, and we know it from letters and from his father's letters, and in general from George Sand letters, from everybody. Anyway, so this young 23 years old man decides to write a piece that was to put all Paris to the floor, if you know what I mean. He wants to show off his technique, but also virtuosity, of course, his elegant inside, his French part, because as we know, he was half French, half Polish. So he also had this beautiful French part, which we will hear in this music. he wanted to write a piece that was so difficult that nobody else but him could play, and that was popular, so that French salons would invite him to play it for them. This was extremely smart. But the beginning of the piece is what Chopin really felt. That's at least my impression. We don't know it for sure. We don't know it from letters or anything like that, but that's how it sounds. That's how Chopin felt. But now let's start analysis, of course, and I will now play for you the whole introduction. And I have a question and a task for you. You can take a piece of paper or whatever you can note, your cell phone or whatever you want. And when I will be playing, try to listen carefully and count how many different characters, moods you will find in this music. I'm not talking about the structure. I don't want you to count the different parts. I want you to write down and count how many different characters, moods. You can even name them if you want. Now we have the first theme. I wonder how many you count. Too bad it's not live, so I can't really read your comments right now. But believe me, I will read all the comments afterwards, so you still can write so that I can see if you are right or not. Maybe it was not that difficult, but still I think surprising. If we focus on this, how many different changes of moods are in this, that this is the first reason to call this piece a very bad piece of music. And so called this piece a few musicologists. of course, because of a few reasons that we will talk about also later today. This is the first reason. Well, I mean, you cannot write the piece that every 1 minute has a different character, or every 30 seconds. I mean, it seems like this piece was written, this introduction was written by some mental person. The person, like, I mean, crazy, with constant changing the moods. And these moods are not a little different. They are completely different from completely another world. So what I wrote here myself with in the pencil when I was making analysis and learning the piece is that this introduction contains a lot of different worlds, musical worlds. And that the first impression when we hear it is like, oh my God, we don't know what's going on in here. We don't understand. The narration, you know, because usually in Chopin's music, I mean, Chopin music is very united, and we talked about it many times in our analysis of his pieces. And this is very different, but there must be a reason. It's not because he was a poor composer, of course. Of course he wrote it on purpose, and this purpose was genius because he was genius. So in my opinion, the beginning is what Chopin wanted to really write. It's like he wrote to his professor words like, I would love to write high artistic music that comes from my heart, but nobody will listen to it. You know, this problem also we pianists have very often when we argue with our agents and concert organizers about the repertoire, because we are thinking about, you know, the philosophy, the deepness of the music. We want to play what we love the most, but they are thinking about whether it will sell or it will not sell, whether people will come or they will not come, whether they will enjoy it or they will feel bored. Well, this is really a problem, and everybody has to find his own way of negotiating the repertoire. Of course, well, I'm not talking about pianists such as Christian Zimmermann, Grigory Sokolov, or, you know, Daniel Trifonov, or some other first-class pianists, because they practically can decide what they play, and anyway people will buy tickets always. But I'm talking about such that are not that well known but still are playing concerts, like myself, for example. Anyway, so this was Chopin's problem, but he still couldn't help, so he wants to, you know, show a little of his insight, his true feelings. That's why, and now we go to the analysis, the first part is so deeply sad. And it's not a joke sadness, I mean a sadness of a child or something. I've heard one professor, I think in Poland, in a masterclass telling some student that this, you know, this is just like a sadness of a child. So don't treat it so seriously, because later you have the funny part, so it cannot be too sad. Why? I mean, I don't agree, but of course, we don't know the truth. So he or she can be, or I don't want to tell you who he or she was, but never mind. Of course, she or he can be right, but in this video, I'm just presenting my own point of view. And if I were 23 and if I wanted to play, well, let's put it other way. If I am a pianist, I want to play some piece of music that my organizer doesn't want to even hear that I will play, then what I try to do, I will still try to play this piece or something similar, some similar piece, but at the same time, before and after, I will play some hits, you know, some greatest hits that everybody knows, like Turkish March or Moonlight Sonata or something like that, so that it will sell, but I still will play what I want. And this is something like that. We have the first part is very sad, and it's very sincere. Silence. And then repeated again the same sentence, even more sad. And now minor second. Listen, this is just pain. repeated. And everything goes to C minor. So very, very dark key. And then this is repeated. And we should have here, right? But we don't have it anymore. Instead, suddenly, after some silence, we have completely different world, like a different piece. Chopin writes here con forza, which means with power. And this is the character of the second part. It's powerful, full of power. Somebody is screaming powerfully. But there is no pain anymore, no pain. We have power, we are powerful. And this is the character number 3. Now suddenly we are running, we escape. This is like an etude, extremely hard to play. This introduction from this part is really a pain. It takes time and it's very uncomfortably written. But what I want to say is that the character is dark and we are afraid and we run, we escape. Here we have mood number 4. A little pastoral, I would say. Here is the first time when Chopin is anticipating the first main theme of the Rondo. And now mood number 5, mysterious magic mood. Like a little foggy. We don't know what to expect. Now 3 notes. And we have the first theme of the Rondo, which I've already played for you. So, now the analysis. This was introduction, now we have the Rondo. Rondo, as you remember, should have A, which we call a refrain, B, which we call an episode, then A comes back the refrain again, then C, another episode, then again refrain. We will see what we have here. The analysis of the first theme of the Rondo. This theme, when we hear it, we laugh. It's extremely light, funny, very, very bright and full of jokes. How it is written? These jokes, I mean, this character comes from the fact that Chopin is using this very popular way of asking question and giving the answer. Asking question, the same question, and giving the different answer. Just listen, this is like a question. And the character of this is very similar to this is of course, the first theme of the third part of Chopin's first concerto. Oh my god, it's complicated. The first theme of the second part of the third part of the first Chopin's concerto in E minor. I mean, you know it because it's very popular. I hope so. And this is Krakowiak, so it's Polish folk dance. And this theme has a little character of the Krakowiak, but it's like a marriage of Krakowiak with the French salon. So, you know, like Chopin, he was half Polish, half French. And this theme is like himself. Polish but French. This is so beautiful. Anyway, so we have a Krakowiak question. I mean, question, I'm talking about, you know, only the motifs. So, and then we have the answer. And again, and another answer. And then everything is repeated because this was the first phrase of the musical period. Then it's repeated. And the answer. And then this question now is different, and Chopin ends the first period in a very, very elegant, beautiful, and funny way. Listen. These two notes at the end are very French. I mean, they come from French Baroque dance, menuet, and in menuets always they used a lot of this because this was like this was a symbol of a bow, you know, down and up, a very elegant bow. So this is how Chopin marry Polish Krakowiak with French menuet. How funny. Okay, and this is the theme, but now something very interesting happens. We have the new material. And that's the end of the first theme. But what was this material? Well, I was asking myself this question, and after some time I found the answer. Found the answer why Chopin put it here. Because what is very important, and why am I talking about it? Is because this material will never appear again in this piece. Never. Really. So it's only one time. Why? Well, most likely it was like this. Chopin wanted to repeat again the first theme, this, so that we remember it, because it's a rondo. But he didn't want to make it immediately. So instead he just wrote 8 bars of some episode, which is a little different, and then he repeats this first theme again. So that's how it's constructed, the first theme for the first time. So let's say part A. Let's listen to it again so that you can hear where exactly we have this new motif. Here. new part starts. But it's not yet the episode. It's not a couplet, as we call it. This is a bridge now. And this bridge we have to remember. So it's very interestingly written, because just listen to me. In the first 10 seconds of what you will hear, we can find 3 different characters. So just like in the introduction. Just listen. The first, then the second, listen again. And third. Can you hear it? It's unbelievable. This is a genius moment, really. The beginning of this bridge. The first character is like Polonaise, like, proud, powerful. This is exactly. But then what do we have? Mozart, like, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. And after that, we have suddenly pain. We have, and now you will die if I tell you. Of course, I'm joking, but do you remember the introduction? This phrase here. It's exactly the same. Is it a coincidence? Well, I don't think so, but it might be. But maybe not. Maybe not. Really not. This sadness comes back for a little bit in this bridge. So I'm talking about it with such details, because I really want you, when you listen to the rondo later, to recognize this moment. Okay? So that's why. Becomes the really Briand style, typical Briand, Rococo style, when right hand is running up and down with a very dolce and leggero, which means sweet and light, beautiful passages, and this will bring as well. I mean, it goes up, reach the climax, and then goes down and prepares us for the second theme, my friends. There will be the second theme in this piece. I'm trying to talk about it as if I don't know it, or as if you don't know it. If you know it, of course, maybe you laugh now, I know. But anyway, still I want to pretend that I don't know it, because that's the best way to do the good analysis, okay? So let's listen to this. Again, the whole bridge now. This was the bridge. Let's go to theme number 2. And now I will play for you this theme number 2 in its entirety, and you tell me, what do you think it is? What a kind of inspiration Chopin could have writing such music like this. What a kind of inspiration? Well, this is a difficult question. I asked myself this question for a very long time before when I've heard this piece. I listened to this piece and many times actually, and every time I listened to this second theme I was like, I think I know what is this, but I didn't believe that it might be true. But then before this analysis I started to look for the music I thought Chopin could take inspiration from, and I found it. And now I want to play it for you. So prepare yourself for a shock. Listen, yep, papa, da 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 da, papa. This rhythm, and we have thirds, we have sixths, and listen to the accompaniment. Mpa, 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 mpa. And we have most of the instruments are brass, you know. What is this? Now I play for you. It's exactly the same. What is this? Well, this is the folk Austrian music from Alps, you know. Austrian, in the mountains, folk music. Now, you don't believe me, but I didn't believe myself first as well, but I couldn't help it. It's exactly the same. Is it a mistake? I mean, is it a coincidence? No, I don't think so. And I checked because, as you know, I'm doing this research. Chopin was in Salzburg 2 years before he wrote this piece. He spent in Salzburg, I think, 3 days or 4 days on his way to Vienna or to Stuttgart, I don't remember. And of course he heard this music because this music was folk everywhere. They played it everywhere. We don't know it because we don't have letters from that time, but it is absolutely, for me, sure that Chopin, and he decides to write like this because he knows that people love it. You know, people in France, in Salon, when they hear it, they will love it. They will be, you know, moving and doing like this. And he knew that he thought, this might work. They might love it. Maybe he even thought, oh, I don't like it, but I have to write it because I have to make a living, you know. So, if you listen, this is... Everything in thirds and sometimes, well, mostly in the thirds, yes. So that's exactly like this. Brass instruments and a very funny accompaniment. So, to make it short, this is how it should be played, and the pianist should make fun of it and should not try to make a beautiful singing melody, because this is a folk melody, you know, from Alps, and Chopin knew it. So this is the second theme, and finally after the second theme we will have the first couplet. We will have the first episode of the Rondo. And this episode, now I will play it for you in its entirety. It is rather long, but doesn't have a melody. It's simply a kind of virtuoso-like episode to show off the beautiful brillant technique. Let's listen to this. And we are back in part A. So, to conclude this part, before we go further, in this Chopin's Rondo, the main theme, so-called refrain, consists on two themes. This is very important. Theme number 1 and theme number 2, the Austrian theme. And this is the whole part A. And then we had this episode that I played for you, and now let's make a brief analysis on this. Everything starts from this kind of brillant part, which consists on the echo way of writing music, well, I would say, because we have something loud and then something very silent as the response to this loud. So let's listen. Loud, yes, and silent, echo, and again. We will have the second part. We have a question and answer again. Question and answer. Question and answer. And then longer question. And from then we have a show off for the right hand. It's not an easy part because it's not so comfortable. Chopin will reach the climax, and then we will go down and then proceed to the next part. Listen this. This part is very similar to Chopin's Etude number 1, Opus 10. So a show off, just a show off. And then we have part A. Now, very good news. The first theme is almost without any changes. There is only one small variation of this, which I will show you now. This is this one. And this is all. And everything else is the same. So this is just part A. Then we will have also the bridge, which is the same. It's just the same, so I don't need to play it now because it's a waste of time for now. And after the bridge we will of course have the Austrian theme again, and after the Austrian folk theme again we will have the second episode, so the letter C, just like in Rondo, so it's very normal. This second episode is very easy to catch even when you are not a musician, because it starts from something like a dialogue of two persons. Let's listen to this dialogue. This is the first part. It's very funny for me. It's like, you know, two women who talks a lot, very fast, blah, 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 and they talk with each other. And, you know, we don't understand what they talk, but they talk. Maybe this is another language or whatever, we don't understand. And if I play it one octave lower, then you will hear this dialogue very clearly, and probably you will laugh, because it's so funny. Just listen. Excuse me. And the second. First, second, first, second, first, second. Okay, that's all. And now again the original version. And now starts the second part of this episode, and again there's no melody, we simply have the virtuoso part, the showing of the technique, and quite difficult part to play. So I play for you in this episode now in its entirety. Maybe I start again from this dialogue. And now Chopin wants to go back to the first theme, so he brings some motifs from the first theme. Just listen, but like very far away. This is like. It's the same. And then we have part A again, but the third time we will not anymore have the second theme, the Austrian theme. We will neither have the bridge. So instead we simply go forward to Coda, which is, as Professor Mieczysław Tomaszewski writes, he writes about Coda, wonderful words, that this climactic coda, in which the pianistic display reaches its zenith. beautiful words, because indeed this is just the pianistic display. The coda has a few parts, so let's play part by part so that we will see these differences. First part is very funny, very elegant, and is built in a very simple way by using only one little scale up and scale down. Sorry. And then there is an answer for this. But I have to play it, of course, in its entirety first. So let's listen to this in its entirety. Until this we can say this is the first part. So everything starts so funny and elegant, but at the same time not easy to play, especially when this little motif comes for the second time, when instead of this we have these little trills. Well, here you really have to have very fast fingers to play it well. It's really difficult to play. So listen. And then this is like the answer. Again. And now a little different. And then answer. Have the double thirds. I mean, in short, here Chopin put all the problems, technical problems, and all his pianistic technique, and we can see that he was really a great piano player. Yes. Now let's listen to the second part of the coda. It starts very funny because it starts like with constantly repeating one motif. And we don't know how long will he repeat. Well, I can play like this all day. But Chopin repeats here it 4 times. After that he gives our the scale up and down, and then we have a very spectacular passage going up to reach the next climax, and then we reach the beautiful big climax, and after that you will hear probably the reminiscence from for the very last time. It's really wonderful. So let's listen to this. Here I have the impression that Chopin didn't really know how to finish this absolutely gorgeous, spectacular piece of music. The ending is not so successful, unfortunately. Well, this is my opinion. Chopin, I don't know, if he agrees, then he probably looks at me now and smiles and says, wow, he's smart, he knows I really had problem with this. But if it's not true, then he probably gets angry and say, what the hell, he's talking to them. Of course I wanted it to be like this. We don't know. But I can present my own opinion that I don't understand why he he tries many different things, many different motifs and characters again. Then he writes Smorzando at the very end, and everything dies, and at the end we have just two chords, as if the orchestra is playing the last two chords, but before there was a soloist. We don't know, but just listen how it ends. I don't know what to do to have a huge ovation after this piece. I mean, it could have different ending, in fact, because the energy that he is building is just going down. So, you know, we are high and then we go down, and something is missing, in my opinion. But nevertheless, I personally consider this piece as a great piece of music, great piece of Chopin's period of adaptation. That's what I was looking for. And the young 23 years old Chopin writes the fantastic, virtuoso, difficult like hell piece. It really, trust me, if you never played it, it's much more difficult than it sounds. I mean, it sounds difficult, but it's more, because many places are written especially to be uncomfortable. Probably because, as I said before, Chopin didn't want anybody else to learn this piece and play it, because it was very smart. Then they invited him to play this music, and he got inside. So the doors to French Salon were open for him. And now, to conclude this episode, I will play for you this in its entirety, but of course it will not be like a concert, because I still need maybe 1 month to really master the piece. But what I really want to do is that after this episode you will listen to this piece by any recording, and you will know exactly what's going on and where you are. So to do it, I will just present this piece for you in its entirety and tell you while playing where we are. That way I think it makes sense. part A. The bridge. And the Austrian second theme. The end. And the first episode, so part B. And part A. A little variation. And the bridge, but in a different key. Sorry. part C, so the dialogue, the second episode. And now we slowly approach part A. Part A again. And the Coda. Reminiscence of the first theme. And this is the end. And now I have to confess to you, if you are still with me, congratulations, that it was the episode that I was most afraid of. Because it's a new piece for me, of course, and of course I want to record it next year, but it's still a lot of time, so now I have the basic, and I will be working on it more and more. Maybe I play it on some concerts and then it will be good. Sorry for one mistake that happened. It was a memory mistake. It sometimes happens when the piece is very new, and probably if you play the piano you know it yourself, but I'm not going to record it again, so it just makes this video more human, I hope, and I hope you understand me and forgive me this little mistake. Anyway, now we finished rondos. I mean, we still have opus 5, but I will make it in February, and we start etudes. Finally. Thanks for watching and see you again. Bye bye.